We will be going over the Portland market update for September of 2023, where things are at right now, what are some expectations or scenarios that might happen, and for those investors there, I do have a new technique that might be of benefit for you. Hey, I'm Will, and I create videos about living here in Portland, Oregon, along with educational content like this. I would love to have the chance to win your real estate business, so if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest, feel free to reach out. I'll have all my contact details down below. Let's dive right into it. First off, interest rates are a little bit high right now. We have been sitting around the mid sevens for a majority of the August timeframe, and diving here into September, seeing about the same as well. However, we have seen that core inflation has actually ticked down just slightly, but overall inflation has increased. Throwing some stats at you now, with about 2.2 months of inventory for the month of August, along with pending sales decreasing by about 18.9%, which overall we haven't been having as many transactions happening in the Portland market. Now, the median sales price from last year to now has decreased by about 2.7%. Looking at the different types of price ranges, we can notice that the first-time homebuyer price range, probably anywhere between that $300,000 all the way up to about the $600,000 or $700,000 range, is very popular, and that's usually where you're going to see a lot more transactions happen, along with a little bit more competition. And as you get higher in those price ranges, you'll typically see that there is a lot less competition. So something to keep in mind when you are looking to buy, and understanding that there is still competition out there. It just depends on the price range. And if you find any of this content interesting, hit that like and subscribe button for more content like this. If you want to jump to my advice for buyers and sellers, you can see where the timestamps are for that. There are a couple scenarios that could happen with the Portland market. The scenario where we see interest rates actually decrease would be very beneficial for the affordability of buyers. For every 1% decrease we see in the interest rates, we would see about 5 million buyers nationally enter the market. With that, that would also become somewhat of a problem, because if we don't have enough inventory to actually keep up with the demand, it would then increase those prices. We still have a lot of sellers that are affected by a lock-in effect, which basically means that they have a much lower interest rate and is not as inclined to move to another house and have a higher interest rate or a higher payment overall. In order to get them off the fence and potentially selling and increasing that supply side, we would have to see interest rates closer to that 4 to 5%. Now, that's probably not going to be happening anytime soon, and as of right now, we are having to really rely on new construction to build those houses. And even so, we're not building a ton of affordable houses, especially in that first-time homebuyer range. Another scenario that we could also see is seeing rates stay the same. Now, if this is the case, it could potentially be for the next 12 to 18 months, given the fact that the Federal Reserve historically has decreased rates or cut rates about 6 months to 14 months after the last rate hike. If we do see the rate hike happen this September, that means that we would probably see those rates drop a little bit later down the line. Now, what this means for a lot of buyers and sellers is the fact that the sellers will most likely not want to move out of their place, which then limits supply. However, we still have a large amount of demand when it comes to the buyer side, especially on the more affordable first-time homebuyer range. Now, a third scenario we could potentially see is interest rates actually going up. And this is probably not going to be the best news for a lot of buyers, because the fact that affordability will decrease. Now, this might also push sellers to have to decrease their prices as well, or get a little bit more creative in terms of offering more for their buyers in terms of a rate buy down or something of that nature. This is a place where we could be for a little while if it does kind of push us up, and then could potentially push prices down a little bit, but I wouldn't see probably a 20 to 30% decrease if we do see interest rates rise a little bit further. Some advice for those who are looking to buy right now. If you are in that first-time homebuyer range, which is probably be anywhere between that $300,000 to about $600,000 price range, it is going to still be very competitive, and still is competitive. As you can see on the chart, you can see how the price ranges in that range have been transacting very quickly, and there have been a lot more of them. Now, if you're above that, you might not have to deal with as much competition, and you're probably going to be able to get some sort of concessions from the seller, which is fantastic for you. Those concessions could potentially be a 2-1 rate buy down or getting additional closing costs, so that way you can handle the costs when it comes to that monthly mortgage payment, and is a good option for you to explore with your lender if you have that option. Now, for sellers, you're going to have to be a little bit more aggressive when it comes to pricing. There is not as many buyers in the market, and there's still relatively limited inventory, but if you do have another property that pops up that's very similar to yours and is not going very quickly, it's a good idea to look at the surrounding comps and see what the potential is for your home to get sold in a specific time frame. If you're not worried about it, then you can definitely price a little less aggressively, but if you are worried about it, then it's a good idea to price a little bit more on the aggressive side in order to get the offers that you want. Now, with this, you also should note for the condo market, we have seen a larger amount of days on market. So if you're trying to offload your condo very quickly, it might not happen. You may see anywhere between about 30 to 60 days, and in some cases even 90 days, depending on the level of finish, where the condo is, and a couple other factors. Now, if you are looking to downsize or combine households or anything of that nature, and you have a lot of equity, it's a good idea to start looking at bridge loans. And then I also have a couple other creative financing options you might have. So feel free to reach out and we can talk to a lender that would be able to help find the best strategy for you to make that move, so that way you are not paying a massive mortgage, or when you do make that switch, it will not be as much of a financial burden. Now, for investors, and more specifically house hackers, this is a great strategy if you are looking to make a house cash flow. As you know, a lot of small multifamily properties do not cash flow whatsoever here in Portland, but if you can find a property where it does not have a ton of a mortgage or has a bunch of equity that the seller has, you could potentially put a conventional loan on that home and then have a second note that would be a seller carried note. Now, if you have questions about this, feel free to reach out. I'll have my contact information down below as usual. And if you find any of this content helpful, it'd be wonderful if you could hit that like and subscribe button. It helps out my channel a ton and allows me to help other people with their real estate journey.